All right, everybody, welcome to my newest predecessor guide video. This video was requested by someone that was in the comments of one of my videos, and he asked for how to have fun in laning against Morigesh. And the easy answer to that is it's not fun to lane against Morigesh. There's a lot of things that she's really good at. She's really good at doing damage, and she's really good at ruining your life when you can get away from her, if you happen to be able to get away from her anyways. So if you live under a rock and you do not know what Morigesh does, her ultimate is she pulls out a voodoo doll of someone that she has marked and stabs them, and no matter where they are on the map, it does a certain amount of damage. And it can be really annoying once you get away from her and she happens to use that and it kills you from across the map and you think that you were safe. So in this video, I'm going to add some tips and tricks that I use for facing her in the mid lane anyways. So like I said, she's one of the harder characters to face in the middle lane, but there's a couple things that you can do to better your odds when facing her, and I'll go over a couple of those things. But like I said, I don't know everything about this game, and if there's anything that I missed, feel free to add it in the comments below, and I will pin the comment if I feel like it is a really good comment. So be sure to add a comment if you feel like there's anything that I missed or anything that you think I should add, or even if you disagree, that's fine. I'm always willing to learn and evolve and learn new tactics to face people. But let's jump into it. So I'm going to warn you now, if you've seen a lot of my videos, you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff, because facing Morigesh is pretty much the same of doing a lot of the other things that I suggest that you should be doing anyways. But a lot of times when you're facing someone like Morigesh, you need to be focusing more on these things. But the first thing that I want to mention is knowing her abilities and knowing that her character. So if you ever want to look up what a character's abilities are, you can go over to this Heroes tab here and then find the hero that you're wanting. It's like right now we're looking at Morigesh or Morigesh. I don't know how to say her name, so deal with me. But go to our abilities tab, and everybody has a passive, a basic attack, alternate ability, secondary ability, primary ability, and an ultimate. So let's go over her abilities real quick. Her first one is Pestilence, which is pretty much a bleeding damage over 3 seconds, and it deals 0.4% damage and adds 0.15% per 75 magical power. So essentially that's a bleeding damage. This is called something else here. But her basic attack, she throws those daggers at people, and it's the only ability she has that does physical damage. So it's not really that big of a deal to have. But here's the mark. So this mark ability does damage to them, and you see the building up here. But what it also does is it makes it so all your other abilities are more effective against your target. And also, in order to use your ultimate, which let's go look at right here, her ultimate ability is called Curse. And you saw, oh, that's okay. Yeah, you summon a horde of insects and stab the marked target. It's a horde of insects, but it looks like a voodoo doll to me, so I call it a voodoo doll. But you deal 300, 430, 560 damage, and most Morigesh players, if they know what they're doing, they'll make that way more by adding certain cards and abilities to make this do significantly more damage. And mixed with this, her ultimate can be pretty devastating, but she can only use it against people she has marked. And we'll jump into that later on. I'll talk more about being marked. But the next one is Hive. She throws a ball of insects at people and it deals damage over time. And yeah, this is pretty much her poke ability, and a good Morigesh can hit you pretty accurate with this from pretty much I'm trying to think of how to explain it, but a good Morigesh player can hit you with this if you're close at all. And then this one, the secondary ability is Swarm, and essentially it gives her you can see movement speed here, so she can move a lot faster, and if she touches you with that, it deals this damage right here building up, and it also heals her for a certain percentage, which you can see here. And these numbers are building up by the level that you have the ability. So it starts with 12%, then 17%, and so forth. And if you're marked, it will restore 4%, 4 times more health for her. So something that I mentioned in my 10 tips and tricks video was trying new characters and seeing what their abilities are, and at least trying every character one time. And I especially think if you are struggling against a certain character, that you should definitely try that character out, even if it's in a bot match or just a casual map or whatever you feel comfortable with. But trying that character out, and I can't express this enough, but the best way to learn how to counter someone is to play that character and learn how their abilities work, learn techniques and tactics, find out all their dirty little tricks that they have. And the example I always use is like Grux. If you know his abilities and you know yourself, like how the combos work, you can really counter him and make it so his abilities are pretty much useless if you can evade them in the right way. So if you're struggling with any character, but in this example, we're talking about Morigesh, if you're struggling to face her, you should be playing her in bot matches or just casual matches and figuring out how she works, what her abilities are, and get familiar and used to what she does. Okay, so now we're going to talk about items that you should get and also what crests you should get. So as we saw by looking at her abilities, all of her abilities except for her basic attack do magical damage. And the only thing that she has as physical damage is her little knives, and she won't get anything physical power, any items that are physical power or anything like that, because her knives are pretty useless, let's be honest. And they're more just kind of a killing minions type thing. But so with that being said, you should be making sure that you get a lot of magical armor so that she doesn't do as much damage to you. But another item that I think is really essential when you're facing her is getting a tainted item. And what tainted items do is it reduces healing by 40%. And her E ability, which is the one where she turns into a swarm and she can move really fast, and as she walks into you, it does a lot of damage and it heals her. I like to get the tainted item so that if you do get hit by that, it will do less healing for her, because late game, and especially if she gets items that heal her, like the life steal items, that can be really big, and you can do a lot of damage to her. She hits you with that, she'll regenerate a lot of that damage back. All right, so the next choice that you're going to want to make is which crest evolution to take. And I will warn you, these crests can be really good late game, but you don't get them until later in the game. So this is more of a later in the thing. But once you get these, if used right, it can make Morigesh's ult pretty much useless. So the first one that you can pick is Epic. And this is the one that makes you go into a stasis to where you don't take any damage and you're unable to move for 2.5 seconds. So when Morigesh ults you, you'll have like the little leaves and bugs pop up above your head and it'll make a noise. And if you're waiting, you have like 2 seconds to react to it. And if you're holding that until she does that, you can use the ability at the right time. It'll essentially just make her hit you when you're invulnerable, and it won't do any damage or anything to you.
Catch him in time.
He ulted me, but I wasn't even close to being low enough. So that crest is a really good one to use, but the other one that I like to use is Soul Bearer. So what this one does is when you use it, it gives you 25% of your total mana as a shield. So if you have 600 mana, it'll give you 25% of that as an over shield, which can be really good, because if she's using it, you could pop that shield up, and a lot of times it'll just eat up your shield and you will survive it. Because most of the time when she's using your ult, it's when you've gotten away and she wants to get the kill once you're to safety. So there are good things to both of these crests, but I like to use the Soul Bearer one because it's the one I can use more, and I can use it when I'm fighting anybody. And there's a lot of times where the Epic, where you'll use it, and a lot of times they'll just pretty much, it's useless because they'll just sit there and wait the 2.5 seconds and then kill you later. But it can be really good because it can give you 2.5 seconds for your teammates to show up and help you. But I just like the Soul Bearer one a little bit better. But I will say late game, her ult will just do so much damage. So later in the game, having the Epic is really good, but it's up to you and your play style and what you decide to use. But those are the 2 crests that you can get to pretty much negate her ultimate. Okay, that's all I had to really say about items. Just make sure you're grabbing some magical armor and that tainted item, whatever one's best for the character that you're playing, and also one of those 2 crests. If it is applicable, because that's with the Magician's crest. So if you're playing someone that doesn't use the Magician's crest, then I'm sorry, I can't really help you there. But Let's move on to just some general things that you can do. So this is something that I did mention in my 10 tips and tricks video as well, but you want to be paying attention to her mana, because especially early game, she uses a lot of mana and she has to return back to base quite often because she's run out of mana. And Morigesh is pretty much useless when she has no mana, because like the only thing she can do is throw those damn little knives at you that don't do anything really. But if you're paying attention to her mana and she doesn't realize that she's low on mana, that is the perfect time to attack, because you can really catch her with her pants down. And at the same time, if her stamina or her mana is really low, then she can't use her ultimate to get you once you get away, if you need to get away anyways. So you want to be paying attention to her mana. That's pretty much the case with any character though, making sure you're keeping an eye on their mana and their health bar. As you see right here, you can see her mana bar is really full, but I had full health and I was pretty confident going in, especially since I've been fighting her and I kind of caught a idea of her play style. But yeah, that was a point that I was just pointing out, and you can see their mana bar. A lot of people forget about that. Okay, so the next point that I want to bring up is avoiding her poke, which is her Q, where she throws the ball of bugs at you. I guess that's technically what it is. But when most characters, when they're about to use some abilities that like you press the button and then you have to press another button to use it, there's a sign that they're using it. And I'll play a clip here real quick of Morigesh's. So you can see there that she visibly brings out a ball and it makes like a noise. So if you see her do that, just be aware that she's getting ready to throw it at you. And that could be anywhere between half a second to a few seconds. There's no delay. There's no like set thing on how long she can hold on to that before she throws it. But if you're paying attention, you can see when she pulls it out and when you need to back up and avoid her. But also going along with that, avoiding getting hit by that, I would avoid being balled up with your minions, because a lot of times Morigeshes will use their little ball to hit the groups of minions because it does a lot of damage to them. And when she hits them with that, and then she runs through them with her E ability, which is where she turns into a swarm and runs fast. When she hits them with that, before she hits them with the running fast ability, it does extra damage. So just avoid like being in the wrong place when she's throwing that, and just like giving her what she wants, pretty much hitting you and the minions at the same time. And going along with that, it's kind of easier said than done, but try to avoid getting marked by her, and especially if you're a ranged character, just staying out of her range. Pretty much if you can hit her, she can hit you. So if you get early game, if she gets her ultimate before you, especially, but like pretty much early game, her ultimate is pretty much an easy kill if it's a good Morigesh anyways. So you want to be making sure that you avoid getting marked if you can. So this next tip is going to be very character based, and it may not be something that you can do, but something that your allies can do. But as a Morigesh character, I could tell you that this is one of the most annoying things in the world. Well, maybe just as annoying as someone using the epic right when you use your ultimate, but something that is really annoying is if you use a stun on her while she's using her ultimate, it just stops what she's doing and it'll use up her ultimate, so she can't use it again for 60 or 90 seconds or whatever she's at the time. And I can tell you, there'll be plenty of times where I'll be in a fight and I'll have somebody really low and I'll be chasing after them and they'll get away, and I'll just use my ultimate, and like I'll have a Grux come over and pull me towards him or use his E ability and stun me, and it just stops my ult in its tracks. I don't do anything, and it takes up the ability, and there's a cooldown for it, and it's just so frustrating. So if you're playing with someone that is in middle lane struggling against a Morigesh and you see Morigesh using her ult, jump in there and use a stun as fast as you can. So that's just a kind of a little thing that's kind of hard to do, and it's very situational and very character based, but something a lot of people might not know about anyways. But if you are playing a character that has a stun, you can almost bait her into wasting her ability if you're good enough. If you can get low health and you see her start using her ability, you can run over there and just throw, like if you're playing Argus or Decker. I guess Decker's not really mid lane, but if you're playing Argus, you could throw your little stun ball and stop her in her tracks and really start to frustrate the Morigesh player that you're playing against. But going along with this idea of stunning her mid in the middle of her ulting, a lot of Morgeshes will try to use it in the middle of fights for whatever reason. It's not, I don't really agree with doing it, but what they'll do is if you're in the middle of a fight and they're like really losing and you're low, they'll try to get their ultimate off before they die. She is vulnerable during that like 2-3 seconds that she's using that ability. And if you can kill her before she gets it off, it does not do damage to you until she is done. So if you see her using it, pounce on her and give her everything you got. Like the best thing you can do is fight back. And that's like the similar thing I always say about in my videos about if you get jumped, fight. Don't just try to run unless you know you can get away. But anyways, if you see her using her ultimate and she's in the middle of a fight with you, try to kill her before she can get it off because she's vulnerable during that time. Another thing I want to add is something I mention a lot is having a lot of communication. If you are struggling and you are behind when you're facing anyone really in the mid lane, but especially with Morigesh, if you are struggling, communicate with your teammates and have them help you jump her because her ultimate can only target one person. So you want to be making sure that you can coordinate with your jungler or the off lane or even the duo lane to come and help you with her if it is needed, because you can always ask for help. And if people are doing well in their lane, it leaves them a lot of time and opportunity to roam over and help. All right, well, that's pretty much all the tips and tricks I have. A lot of this stuff is pretty much basic, and it's the same with everybody, like knowing her abilities, knowing her character, avoiding her abilities when you can, and just avoiding making sure that she does a ton of damage, and you don't want to be in a situation where she can use her ultimate. You want to avoid that whenever you can. So if you're running low on health, return back to base, because what she'll try to do is get you close enough that she can use her hive ability and get you low. And I can tell you, as a Morigesh player, like I'll be in a situation like almost like I'll be here where they'll be low in their tower and I'll just keep throwing my little ball at them, get them low as I can, and then I'll sneak in, get them with my mark, and then just kill them. So even if you're at half health, just be careful and make sure that she doesn't get you down low enough that she can use her ultimate, and be aware that towards the end game her ultimate can really mess you up even if you're at half health. So just being careful and returning back to base when you need to. It's better to return back to base early than it is to just die. So like I said, just paying attention, knowing her character, and I'd suggest playing her because like I said, that's the best way to learn how to face a character. But anyways, thank you for making it this far. If you did, if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to like the video and comment what characters you are struggling to face against, and I'll do my best to get some footage of facing them and give you some advice that I have on facing certain characters, because there's definitely other characters that are annoying, and especially the Skylar's come out. I might make a video about Skylar because I made a couple revelations when I was facing her in the off lane, but if you have any people that you're struggling with, let me know and I'll try to make videos on them. And be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.